Most people drift through life half awake, begging for direction, terrified of their own potential. But not you. You're here because something in you refuses to die quietly. Something in you is done being overlooked, underestimated, and unheard. That instinct, the one pushing you toward this moment, is the first sign that you're ready to become dangerous in the right way. On Sigritham, we don't chase motivation, we manufacture power. Understand this, the world bows to those who operate with strategy, not emotion. Strength isn't loud, it's calculated. Influence isn't given, it's seized. And the man who learns to detach, to observe, to strike with intent, becomes a force even chaos hesitates to touch. Ask yourself, are you ready to carve out the version of you that no one can manipulate, derail, or break? If you are, mark your presence by commenting, "I choose cold clarity." Stamp it, claim it. Let it signal that you are done living on instincts shaped by weakness, because from this point forward, you enter a stricter world, a Machiavellian world, where survival is strategic, emotions are tools, and discipline is the blade that cuts your path open. This is the threshold. Cross it, and you begin your transformation into someone untouchable. Number 1, the law of strategic self-mastery. If you want to become the hardest, sharpest, most strategic version of yourself, you must begin with a truth that most men never dare to face. Your life is a direct reflection of the level of control you have over yourself. Not your environment, not your circumstances, yourself. The man who cannot command his own impulses will never command respect, influence, or power, and the world will sense it instantly. People can smell emotional instability the same way animals smell fear. That's why your first battlefield is internal. Before you conquer anything outside you, you must dominate everything within you. Understand this. Strength is not built in comfort, and clarity is not found in noise. If your mind is cluttered with doubt, envy, resentment, or insecurity, you are already predictable. Predictability is weakness. A predictable man is easy to provoke, easy to manipulate, and easy to defeat. Your emotions should never be the steering wheel, they should be the fuel. You burn them with precision, not let them drive you into chaos. This is where masculine stoicism becomes your armor, not apathy, not numbness, but disciplined emotional control, the ability to feel intensely and still act with strategy. Every powerful figure throughout history, Machiavelli, Marcus Aurelius, Sun Tzu, understood that mastery begins with the self, not because the world is fair, but because the world is ruthless. And if you don't create a strategy for your life, someone else will impose theirs on you. That is the silent rule of power. Either you shape the world, or the world shapes you. So let me ask you directly, what shapes you right now? Your past, your mistakes, your fears, or the version of you you're trying to become? Because if your identity is built on damage, you will operate from damage. If it is built on discipline, you will operate from discipline. The question is not, who are you? The question is, who do you obey inside your own mind? The weak obey their impulses. The average obey the opinions around them. But the untouchable man obeys only his mission. And this is where your transformation truly begins. You must eliminate the version of yourself that reacts and build the version that decides. Reaction is emotional. Decision is strategic. Reaction is survival. Decision is dominance. Every time you pause instead of explode, observe instead of assume, calculate instead of complain, you sharpen yourself. You become more dangerous, not because you're more aggressive, but because you're more controlled. Understand this clearly. Power is not loud. Power is silent until it strikes. Power moves in shadows, speaks only when necessary, and plays the long game while everyone else chases quick validation. If you want to evolve into a man who is respected, followed, and feared when necessary, you must develop patience that feels almost unnatural. Impatience blinds, patience reveals. Most people never see opportunities because they panic before the opportunity has a chance to unfold. And remember this, once you begin mastering yourself, people around you will notice. Some will admire your change, some will resent it, some will fear it, and some will try to pull you back into the version of yourself that made them comfortable. Do not bend, do not shrink, do not apologize. Evolution threatens the stagnant. Your rise will expose their complacency, and that is not your burden to carry. You owe them nothing. You owe your future everything. If you're committed to this internal ascension, mark your presence again in the comments. Write, "My mind is my fortress." Let the world know you're not just listening, you're transforming. This is the foundation. This is the sharpening. This is how you become untouchable. Number 2, the architecture of power. How strategic minds dominate without force. Power is not seized with noise, it is constructed with foresight. The strongest men are not the ones who shout the loudest or hit the hardest. They are the ones who understand the subtle mechanics of influence. They know that power is not an event, it is a system built piece by piece, decision by decision, habit by habit. If you want to become the hardest, sharpest, most strategic version of yourself, you must become an architect of your own influence. You must build yourself into a man whose presence shifts the energy in the room long before he speaks. Start with this truth: people respond to what you project, not what you intend. You may want respect, but if you project insecurity, the world will crush you. You may want loyalty, but if you project inconsistency, the world will betray you. Machiavelli understood this better than anyone. The perception of strength often matters more than strength itself. And perception is something you control. Every action, every silence, every boundary sends a signal. The question is, do your signals reflect a man who commands himself, or a man who is still negotiating with weakness? To become untouchable, you must master strategic invisibility. This doesn't mean hiding, it means choosing when to reveal your intentions. The average man announces his plans. The powerful man reveals only results. When you operate silently, you deny others the ability to corrupt your path. Silence becomes a shield. Discretion becomes leverage. Your moves become unpredictable, calculated, deliberate, and impossible to read. This is the first layer of cold power, control of information. But information alone is not enough. You must also master the psychology of presence. Your presence should communicate discipline. It should communicate boundaries. It should communicate that you are not a man easily swayed by emotion, opinion, or pressure. Presence is built through consistency. Your tone, your posture, your eye contact, the pace of your decisions. When your internal world is steady, your external world radiates certainty. And certainty is magnetic. People follow it. People trust it. People fear disappointing it. Power deepens when you understand another fundamental truth. Most conflicts can be won before they begin, not through intimidation, but through anticipation. A strategic mind doesn't react to problems. It sees them forming long before others recognize the patterns. This is where dark psychology becomes a tool, not a weapon. You begin to study human behavior, not to manipulate people, but to understand them, to predict their moves, their insecurities, their impulses. You start recognizing who is threatened by your growth, who is inspired by it, and who is plotting against it. Awareness allows you to protect yourself without confrontation. It allows you to win quietly. One of the most powerful Machiavellian principles is this: a man who cannot be provoked holds the highest ground. When someone tries to trigger you and fails, you expose their powerlessness. When someone seeks an argument and you remain composed, you expose their desperation. When someone challenges your dignity and you respond with calm precision, you demonstrate that your self-worth cannot be negotiated. This level of control is not natural. It is forged. It is trained. And once you have it, very few people can destabilize you. Yet even as you rise, you must remain aware of the hidden trap, the ego. Power intoxicates the undisciplined. Many men sabotage their own ascent because they begin to believe they are invincible. But true power is not arrogance. It is awareness. Awareness of your flaws. Awareness of your blind spots. Awareness of the environments you outgrow and the environments that will sharpen you further. Stoicism teaches humility. Machiavelli teaches strategy. Together, they form a balanced intelligence, the power to move with confidence and think with caution. As you build your influence, you will encounter resistance. Some will question your motives, some will criticize your silence, some will try to destabilize your certainty. Let them. Their reactions are not obstacles, they are confirmations that your evolution is real. A man committed to growth disrupts the complacent. A man committed to discipline exposes the undisciplined. You owe nothing to the version of the world that prefers you weak. You owe everything to the version of yourself that demands strength. If you resonate with this transformation, if you feel the shift happening inside you, declare it in the comments. Write, "My presence is power." Stamp it. Own it. You are no longer just listening, you are becoming. And becoming is the most dangerous thing a man can do. Number 3, the art of controlled distance. Why power requires space. Power is not something you hold in your hands. It is something you create in the space around you. And the most strategic men understand this. Distance is a weapon. Not emotional detachment out of fear, not isolation disguised as strength, but controlled distance. A deliberate, calculated choice to protect your energy, your mind, and your mission from unnecessary influence. Weak men cling to everyone. Powerful men choose their proximity with surgical precision. Look at the people in your life objectively. Strip the nostalgia, strip the emotional bias, strip the excuses you've repeated for years. Who actually strengthens you? Who drains you? Who respects your boundaries? Who only recognizes your value when they need something? The truth is uncomfortable but necessary. Your environment is shaping you even when you're unaware of it. And the distance you create, or fail to create, determines whether you rise or stay stuck. Controlled distance is not coldness, it's clarity. Clarity about who deserves access to your mind. Clarity about which situations pull you backward. Clarity about where your energy must be invested for maximum return. Machiavelli warned rulers to be cautious of familiarity because familiarity breeds entitlement. The same applies to your personal life. When people become too familiar with you, they start believing they understand you. They start believing they can predict you, and once you're predictable, you're vulnerable. Remember this, you do not owe everyone closeness. Proximity is earned. And when it comes to your personal evolution, it must be earned at a high price. Respect, discipline, loyalty, and alignment. If someone cannot meet those standards, they should not be near you. The higher you ascend, the smaller your circle becomes, not because you are superior, but because fewer people can survive the atmosphere of your ambition. Controlled distance also builds mystique, and mystique amplifies power. When you are constantly available, constantly talking, constantly explaining yourself, you dilute your presence. But when you speak less, move strategically, and let your actions reveal themselves only when complete, you create an aura. People begin projecting their own ideas, fears, and assumptions onto your silence. Your mystery becomes a canvas for their imagination, and imagination is far more influential than explanation. This is why powerful men do not compete loudly. They do not broadcast their goals. They do not argue for validation. They let silence do the heavy lifting. Silence confuses the insecure, intrigues the observant, and unsettles the arrogant. It shifts the dynamic. Suddenly, you are not reacting to the world. The world is reacting to you. Controlled distance rewires your relationships. People who once overlooked you start watching carefully. People who underestimated you start recalibrating. People who tried to manipulate you realize they no longer know how. But distance alone is not enough. It must be paired with presence. When you choose to engage, you engage with intention. When you choose to speak, you speak with weight. When you choose to enter a space, you do so with posture, awareness, and self-control. This combination, selective presence and controlled distance, creates a psychological advantage that few can challenge. You become a rare resource, not a common commodity. Now, understand something even deeper. Controlled distance protects your ambition. Most people cannot understand the intensity of a man committed to transformation. They misinterpret your discipline as obsession. They misinterpret your silence as arrogance. They misinterpret your focus as antisocial behavior. But you are not here for their approval. You are here to forge yourself into someone they could never imagine. Distance shields your growth from their insecurity. As you rise, you will notice a pattern. The same people who once distracted you will begin reaching out more, not because they suddenly value you, but because they sense your detachment. They feel the shift. Humans are biologically wired to chase what pulls away. This is not manipulation, it's psychology. And the powerful man does not chase. He evaluates, he observes, he decides. Controlled distance cultivates something else, emotional discipline. The more space you put between yourself and chaotic environments, the sharper your mind becomes. The more boundaries you enforce, the more stable your internal world feels. And a stable mind is a dangerous asset. It cannot be provoked. It cannot be baited into emotional traps. It cannot be derailed by the insecurities of others. This is where cold power grows, quietly, internally, relentlessly. One of the greatest lessons in Machiavellian philosophy is this: never allow others to believe they possess you. Not emotionally, not mentally, not socially. When someone believes they own your time, your attention, or your reactions, they begin to shape your life without permission. Controlled distance prevents this. It makes it clear that you choose your connections consciously, not out of loneliness or dependence. Yet do not confuse distance with bitterness. You are not withdrawing out of pain. You are not isolating out of defeat. You are creating a perimeter, a psychological fortress. A space where your thoughts sharpen, your instincts strengthen, and your purpose becomes undeniable. This space is sacred. It is where your transformation accelerates. Protect it ruthlessly. Now listen carefully. The man who can walk away from anything becomes untouchable. When you cultivate internal independence, people lose their leverage over you. They cannot guilt you. They cannot intimidate you. They cannot tempt you with distractions. You no longer depend on approval or validation. You become self-contained, calm, focused, immovable. This is why you must practice the art of strategic exit. Know when a connection is no longer aligned. Know when a situation is draining you. Know when a conversation is wasting your energy. Powerful men do not stay where their value is unrecognized. They do not negotiate with environments that diminish them. They walk out with dignity, and their absence speaks louder than their presence ever could. If this resonates with you, if you understand the weight of what controlled distance really means, declare it in the comments. Write, "My silence is strategic." Let the world see your shift. Let it mark your psychological evolution. This is not a retreat. This is an elevation. Number 4, emotional autonomy. The discipline that makes you untouchable. Most men lose not because they are weak, but because they hand over their emotional control to the world far too easily. They allow external forces to dictate their internal state. Someone disrespects them. Suddenly, they're angry. Someone ignores them. Now they're insecure. Someone succeeds. Now they're jealous. Their emotions become free real estate for anyone who wants to walk in. And once your emotions are public property, so is your life. But if you want to become the hardest, sharpest, most strategic version of yourself, emotional autonomy must become your central command, the throne you never leave undefended. Emotional autonomy is not numbness, it's not suppression, it's sovereignty. It is the ability to feel everything without being ruled by anything. It is the discipline of recognizing a reaction forming, interrogating it, and choosing whether or not it deserves expression. This level of internal authority is rare because it requires a brutal honesty with oneself. You must be able to observe your emotional impulses without identifying with them. You must be able to ask, is this reaction mine? Or is it inherited, conditioned, or provoked? Most men never reach this point. They react on instinct and call it authenticity. But authenticity without discipline is chaos. Think of a king. A king does not respond to every noise outside the castle walls. He evaluates, he listens, he considers. Only the insecure ruler rushes to defend himself at every rumor. The emotionally autonomous man operates the same way. He is deliberate. He does not jump to conclusions. He does not erupt to prove he is strong. He knows his strength. And because he knows it, he does not waste it. This is what transforms a man from emotionally reactive to psychologically commanding. In your journey toward becoming untouchable, you must understand one of the greatest psychological truths. Most emotional reactions are engineered by your environment, not chosen by you. Your upbringing shaped your triggers. Society shaped your insecurities. Past wounds shaped your fears. But you are not obligated to remain the product of your past. Emotional autonomy is the process of reclaiming ownership from everything that once ruled your inner world. You start by identifying patterns. Observe the emotions that hijack you, the anger that flares too fast, the doubt that whispers too often, the jealousy that surfaces at the success of others. These reactions are not signs of weakness, they are signs of programming. When you see them clearly, without judgment, you begin to separate who you truly are from what you've unconsciously learned. That separation is freedom. That separation is power. But emotional autonomy demands something harder. You must confront the emotions you avoid, not to drown in them, but to dissect them. Avoidance creates control. What you refuse to face ends up dictating your life through the back door. The man who avoids conflict becomes controlled by fear. The man who avoids vulnerability becomes controlled by pride. The man who avoids introspection becomes controlled by his flaws. Confrontation, internal confrontation, is liberation. And understand this. Powerful men feel deeply. They just refuse to collapse inward. Emotional depth without emotional discipline is a storm. Emotional depth with emotional discipline is a sharpened sword. You choose how to wield it. Now, one of the greatest Machiavellian principles reveals itself here. The man who remains steady while the world is chaotic becomes the axis everyone orbits. Think about that carefully. In a room of reactive minds, the one calm mind becomes dominant. Not by force, but by contrast. People instinctively follow stability. They trust it, they depend on it. And if you cultivate it within yourself, you become the point of gravity others subtly rotate around. This is the source of psychological influence. Not manipulation, not coercion, but presence. The presence of a man who is immune to emotional turbulence, a man who is not easily provoked, a man who can hear criticism without crumbling, witness disrespect without losing dignity, and face uncertainty without panicking. This man becomes untouchable, not because nothing affects him, but because nothing controls him. Yet emotional autonomy requires boundaries. Strict boundaries. There will always be people who attempt to feed off your emotional energy, people who live in chaos and want company. You must learn to recognize emotional parasites, not to hate them, but to place distance where distance is needed. You are not responsible for fixing anyone's instability. You are responsible for guarding your own. This is where your discipline becomes visible. When someone tries to drag you into an emotional conflict, you choose silence instead of escalation. When someone tries to bait you into proving yourself, you let their expectations collapse under their own insecurity. When someone gives you attitude, disrespect, or passive aggression, you respond with a levelness that exposes their imbalance. Your control becomes their mirror, and most people cannot stand to see themselves clearly. But emotional autonomy is not just defensive, it's strategic. When your emotions are no longer volatile, you make decisions from clarity instead of chaos. You begin choosing opportunities based on alignment, not desperation. You begin selecting relationships based on mutual strength, not loneliness. You begin pursuing goals with a steady, disciplined intensity instead of short-lived bursts of motivation. Everything in your life becomes precise, calculated, intentional. And paradoxically, emotional autonomy makes you more compassionate, not softer, but wiser. You understand the emotional storms others fight. You no longer take their reactions personally. You no longer feel threatened by their moods. You see their behavior as data, not attacks. This awareness gives you an advantage in every environment, personal, social, professional. When everyone else is entangled in emotional noise, you remain above the signal. Now here's the final truth. Emotional autonomy is not a one-time achievement. It is a practice, a discipline, a lifelong refinement of self-sovereignty. You will slip. You will fall into old patterns. But each time you pull yourself back into awareness, your power strengthens, momentum builds, consistency compounds, and slowly your reactive identity dies while your strategic identity takes its throne. If you feel this shift, if you understand the necessity of this mastery, declare it in the comments. I command my inner world. Let the world see your declaration. Let it anchor your transformation. Number 5. The discipline of long game thinking. Outsmarting the world by outsmarting yourself. Most people are trapped in the prison of the immediate. They chase quick results, quick validation, and quick relief. They don't think, they react. They don't strategize, they improvise their way into failure. But a powerful man, a truly strategic man, operates on a timeline far beyond the present moment. He plays the long game. He sees 10 moves ahead while others obsess over the next 5 minutes. This is one of the most potent forms of psychological advantage you can possess, not through manipulation, but through perspective. The reason the long game is so effective is simple. Most of your competition eliminates themselves. They burn out, they get emotional, they get distracted, they quit at the first sign of discomfort. They sabotage themselves before you ever need to lift a finger. So understand this. Your greatest advantage is the discipline to think at a higher altitude than everyone around you. When you rise above the noise of the moment, you begin to see the patterns that others are too rushed, too overwhelmed, or too insecure to notice. Long game thinking begins with identity. You must stop asking, "What do I want right now?" and start asking, "Who am I becoming?" The difference between those two questions is the difference between a temporary goal and a lifelong transformation. The man who chases outcomes becomes desperate. The man who chases evolution becomes inevitable. Your job is not to achieve everything at once. Your job is to build the version of you capable of achieving anything consistently, sustainably, and without losing his center. To think long-term, you must first master patience, not passive patience, but disciplined patience. This is the kind of patience that continues taking action even when the results are invisible. The kind that trains in silence while others seek applause. The kind that builds foundations while others chase shortcuts. Patience is not a lack of ambition, it is the deepest expression of it, because anyone can start with intensity, but only the strategic can sustain with intention. Machiavelli understood something timeless. The man who rushes writes his own downfall. The man who waits with awareness chooses his moment with accuracy. The long game is not about slowness, it's about timing. Pace is irrelevant without precision. When you act too early, you waste your potential. When you act too late, you waste your opportunity. But when you act at the right moment, you become unstoppable. Yet long game thinking demands something most people will never develop: the ability to delay emotional gratification. You must become comfortable with being misunderstood, comfortable with not having immediate proof of progress, comfortable with making decisions today that won't bear fruit for years. This is where many men fail. They want results faster than they can earn them. But pressure creates diamonds at the right speed. Applied too quickly, it shatters the stone. Applied with consistency, it forms brilliance. Your long game strategy must include 3 pillars: direction, discipline, and detachment. Direction means knowing exactly where you're going, even if no one else sees the vision yet. Your mission must be clear, even if your timeline is flexible. The man without direction wastes his power. The man with direction wields his power. Discipline is the engine. It's the quiet, unglamorous repetition that compounds into mastery. Discipline is not exciting, it's not dramatic, it doesn't give you adrenaline, it gives you results, slowly, silently, and then suddenly. Detachment is your emotional safeguard. Detachment does not mean apathy. It means you stay committed to the mission while remaining unattached to specific outcomes. You don't crumble when things don't go your way. You don't panic when progress stalls. You don't lose yourself when challenges arise. Detachment keeps your identity stable and your strategy flexible. Now, understand the psychological advantage of becoming a long-game thinker. You become unpredictable. People expect impulsive reactions. They expect you to fold under short-term pressure. They expect you to seek the easy path because that is what most humans do. When you don't, when you remain calm, strategic, and forward-focused, you disrupt the expectations of everyone around you. Your patience becomes intimidating. Your persistence becomes confusing. Your clarity becomes magnetic. This is why long-game thinkers rise to levels others believe are unreachable. Not because they are smarter, but because they are more consistent. Not because they avoid obstacles, but because they outlast them. Not because they are emotionless, but because they are emotionally disciplined. Every setback becomes data. Every delay becomes a lesson. Every challenge becomes calibration, and calibration is power. To truly commit to the long game, you must master another rare skill: self-renewal. You cannot operate at high standards without periodically sharpening yourself. Long roads require strong foundations. That means rest, reflection, learning, and recalibration. Not weakness, maintenance. Even the sharpest blade dulls without care. The long-game man ensures that his physical, mental, and emotional fitness evolve with his ambition. He does not burn out because he does not treat himself as disposable. And here's something few will tell you. Long-game thinking exposes people's true character. Some will try to rush you. Some will accuse you of moving too slowly. Some will attempt to derail your focus because your patience highlights their impatience. But distance yourself from anyone who, intentionally or not, encourages impulsive thinking. Surround yourself with those who understand strategy, those who respect discipline, those who value growth measured in years, not days. You must also learn to guard your vision. The long game requires privacy. Most people cannot comprehend goals they cannot see immediate proof of. They project their limitations onto your timeline. They confuse your patience for hesitation. Let them. You're not building for applause. You're building for inevitability. When you think long-term, you stop treating life like a race and start treating it like an empire. Empires are not built by accident. They are built through foresight, planning, and decisive execution. You are not just building achievements. You are constructing a legacy of mind, character, and capability. If you feel these words reshaping your understanding, if you're ready to commit to the psychological discipline of long-term power, declare it in the comments. I move with long-game precision. Let that phrase anchor your shift. Your ascent is not rushed. It is engineered. Number 6. Strategic adaptation. The mindset that survives any terrain. Strength will get you started. Discipline will keep you moving. But adaptability, strategic adaptability, is what will ensure you cannot be stopped. The world is constantly shifting. People change. Circumstances evolve. Opportunities appear and disappear like shadows in torchlight. The man who cannot adapt becomes outdated, irrelevant, predictable. But the man who evolves, quietly, intelligently, relentlessly, becomes a force that no environment can weaken. If you want to become the hardest, sharpest, most strategic version of yourself, adaptability must become part of your psychological architecture. Adaptation does not mean abandoning your values or bending your identity to please others. It means understanding your environment so deeply that you know when to adjust your approach, your strategies, your pace, and your expectations without losing your essence. Think of water. Water is patient. Water is soft. But water adapts to every shape, every obstacle, every terrain. And because it adapts, it endures. Because it endures, it carves mountains. That is the paradox of true power. The flexible often outlast the rigid. To adapt strategically, you must first let go of the illusion of control. You cannot control everything around you. You cannot dictate what people think, how they behave, or what they choose. But you can always control how you respond. You can always control how you position yourself. And you can always control the mindset you bring into any situation. The rigid man demands that the world conform to his expectations. The strategic man shapes himself to meet reality with precision. The first step of adaptation is observation. You must train your ability to read a room, sense the emotional climate, understand the motivations of others, and detect subtle shifts that most people ignore. Observation gives you the power to anticipate instead of react. When you walk into a situation, don't rush to speak. Don't rush to prove. Don't rush to dominate. Just observe. Silence is a weapon here. It allows you to gather information others carelessly reveal. It allows you to form a strategic map while they lose themselves in noise. The second step is recalibration. Once you observe the terrain, you ask yourself, what version of me does this moment require? Not in a manipulative sense, but in a disciplined one. A strategic man knows how to shift gears. When the situation calls for assertiveness, he steps forward unapologetically. When it calls for patience, he waits with intention. When it calls for humility, he listens with curiosity. When it calls for leadership, he commands with clarity. Adaptation is not pretending, it is optimizing. But the third step is the most difficult, letting go of outdated strategies. Many men fail not because they lack strength, but because they cling to habits that no longer serve their mission. They hold on to beliefs that belonged to an earlier version of themselves. They cling to routines built for who they were, not who they are becoming. Strategic adaptation demands brutal self-honesty. You must be willing to kill your old methods to create space for new ones. The same strategy that elevated you to one level may imprison you at the next. Machiavelli understood this deeply. He wrote that fortune favors the man who knows when to adjust his nature, not to betray himself, but to survive the changing winds of destiny. The world does not reward stubbornness, it rewards awareness. The man who rigidly insists on staying the same becomes predictable, and predictability breeds vulnerability. But the man who adapts remains unreadable, unbound, and unreachable. Adaptation also requires emotional neutrality. When you feel threatened by change, you resist it. When you feel attached to comfort, you cling to it. When you feel entitled to stability, you crumble when it shifts. Emotional neutrality allows you to treat change as data, not danger. Every shift becomes an opportunity to refine. Every setback becomes a signal. Every challenge becomes an invitation to adjust your angle, not abandon your path. Think of the strongest warriors, leaders, and thinkers in history. None survived on brute force alone. They survived because they were students of their reality. They watched, they recalculated, they pivoted, and because they pivoted, they stayed ahead. You cannot become untouchable if you fear the unexpected. You cannot become strategic if you only thrive under perfect conditions. You must be able to adapt under pressure. Adapt under scrutiny, adapt under uncertainty. That is where real power grows. But adaptation must be grounded in purpose. A man who adapts without purpose becomes chaotic, unstable, lost. A man who adapts with a guiding mission becomes unstoppable. Your mission is your anchor. It ensures that every shift you make is aligned with your direction. You adjust how you move, never why you move. Your purpose is the compass that prevents adaptability from becoming aimlessness. Another pillar of adaptation is resourcefulness. Life will not always hand you ideal conditions. You must learn to advance with whatever you have. The strategic man does not complain about his limitations. He engineers around them. If the door is locked, he finds a window. If the window is sealed, he finds a weak spot in the wall. If the wall is impenetrable, he becomes patient, waiting for time, erosion, or opportunity to create an opening. Resourcefulness is the ability to turn obstacles into leverage. But understand this: adaptation does not mean constant motion. Sometimes the strongest adaptation is stillness. Sometimes the best decision is restraint. Sometimes the right strategy is to conserve your energy, observe your rivals, and allow the environment to reveal its patterns before you move. Timing is everything. You adapt not by reacting to every moment, but by choosing the right moment. And here's the truth many avoid: adaptation requires humility. It requires the willingness to admit when something isn't working, the maturity to accept feedback, the strength to evolve without ego interfering. Without humility, adaptation becomes impossible. Ego locks you into outdated identities. Ego makes you believe that adjusting is weakness, but the wise know ego is the enemy of evolution. As you practice adaptation, you will notice something striking. You stop fearing uncertainty. You stop resisting change. You stop feeling threatened by shifting dynamics. Instead, you begin seeing yourself as someone capable of navigating any terrain. This belief is transformative. It builds confidence that doesn't need noise, validation, or bravado. It builds inner power that doesn't require external proof. If you resonate with this, if you feel the necessity of becoming adaptable in a world that never stops moving, comment this phrase to anchor your evolution: I adapt with precision. Let that declaration become part of your identity. Number 7. The psychology of influence, commanding respect without force. Influence is not about controlling others, it's about controlling the way you carry yourself so powerfully that people choose to respond differently to you. The most respected men throughout history did not rely on force as their primary weapon. They relied on presence, composure, consistency, and an unmistakable inner command. Influence, at its core, is the art of shaping the environment through who you are, not through pressure, but through impact. And if you want to become the hardest, sharpest, most strategic version of yourself, you must learn the psychology of influence as a discipline, not a tactic. The first principle of influence is this: people follow clarity. Not charisma, not noise, not charm, clarity. When a man knows who he is, what he values, and where he is going, others naturally take him seriously. The world gravitates toward individuals who move with intention because intention creates direction, and most people lack it. Your clarity becomes their stability. When you speak with purpose, people listen. When you act with purpose, people adjust. When you pursue your mission with unwavering focus, you become someone others subconsciously align with. But clarity is not loud, it's calm, it's grounded, it's structured. A man who constantly explains himself, constantly seeks reassurance, or constantly defends his decisions drains his influence. True influence requires you to detach from the need to convince. You state your boundaries, you uphold your standards, you make your decisions, and then you let the world respond however it will. Influence is not in the explanation. Influence is in the execution. The second principle of influence is consistency. People don't trust unpredictability, no matter how charismatic it looks on the surface. If your moods are erratic, your discipline unstable, or your behavior inconsistent, your influence collapses. To build influence, you must become a stable force, a predictable source of integrity, someone whose actions align with their words. Consistency communicates reliability, and reliability communicates power, because someone who is reliable is someone who can be counted on, and people follow those they can rely on. But consistency is not static. You don't become robotic, you become dependable. Others learn that your yes means yes, your no means no, and your presence means something. Consistency shapes reputation, and reputation is the currency of influence. Machiavelli understood this deeply. Your reputation precedes you long before your words ever do. A strong reputation multiplies your power. A weak reputation drains it. The third principle of influence is emotional regulation. People instinctively trust those who remain calm under pressure. Why? Because calmness suggests control, and control suggests competence. The man who panics reveals his emotional vulnerability. The man who erupts reveals his insecurity. But the man who remains composed, even when challenged, signals that he cannot be easily shaken. This type of psychological steadiness is magnetic. It attracts respect, not by demand, but by demonstration. Influence grows when others observe your resilience, when they see you respond to chaos with thought instead of fear, when they watch you choose dignity over impulse. Calmness is not passivity, it is power. It is the mind choosing leadership over reaction. And when you master this, people will seek your presence, not because you demand it, but because your presence stabilizes them. The fourth principle of influence is selective engagement. You must learn the skill of choosing what deserves your attention. Not every conflict requires a response. Not every provocation deserves acknowledgement. Not every invitation should be accepted. Influential men do not scatter their energy, they direct it. When you are selective, you increase your value. You demonstrate that your time, your attention, and your presence are not freely available, and scarcity increases significance. Selective engagement does not mean dismissing others. It means recognizing that your energy is a resource and respecting it enough to use it wisely. The less you chase, the more you choose, and the more you choose, the more influential you become. The fifth principle is posture, internal and external. Posture is more than how you stand. It's how you carry your identity. It's your tone of voice, the steadiness of your gaze, the calmness in your gestures. When your internal world is stable, your external presence reflects it. People feel it. They sense discipline before you speak. They sense composure before you act. Posture communicates authority without aggression, confidence without arrogance. This kind of presence cannot be faked. It is built through inner alignment, your actions, beliefs, and values forming a unified force. When you walk into a room with that kind of alignment, people notice, even if they don't know why. The sixth principle is listening, not passive listening, active, strategic listening. Most people listen to respond. Influential people listen to understand. They read between the lines. They notice detail. They pay attention to what others reveal unconsciously. Their fears, their aspirations, their insecurities, their blind spots. Listening is not a submissive act. It's a reconnaissance skill. It helps you navigate conversations with precision, empathy, and clarity. When people feel heard, they instinctively respect you more. They trust you more. They reveal more. And influence grows in environments where trust and understanding coexist. The seventh principle is self-respect. Your level of influence is capped at your level of self-respect. If you tolerate disrespect, you communicate that you do not value yourself. If you abandon your standards to keep others comfortable, you communicate that your boundaries can be bent. If you betray your own principles for approval, you communicate that your identity is negotiable. Influence is built by honoring yourself first, by enforcing boundaries with quiet strength, by walking away when necessary. When you respect yourself, others calibrate their behavior accordingly. You do not have to threaten anyone. Your standards do the work. And the final principle of influence is authenticity, disciplined authenticity. Not emotional impulsiveness, not oversharing, not raw, unfiltered reactions, but genuine integrity. People follow those who are honest with themselves and consistent in their character. Your authenticity is a lighthouse, not for attention, but for alignment. It attracts the right people and repels the wrong ones. When you combine clarity, consistency, emotional control, selective engagement, posture, active listening, and self-respect, influence becomes a natural byproduct. Not through force, but through gravity. People begin adjusting to you, mirroring you, respecting the atmosphere you create simply by existing in it. This is influence at its highest form, not manipulation, not dominance, but internal mastery radiating outward. If this resonates with you, if you feel your internal posture shifting, anchor it in the comments. I influence through presence. Own it, claim it, become it. Number 8. The fortress mind. building mental resilience that cannot be broken. Powerful men are not defined by how they behave when things are easy. They are defined by how they behave when everything collapses at once. Anyone can act confident when the path is smooth. Anyone can act disciplined when life is predictable. But the man who remains composed while the ground beneath him shifts, that man is rare. That man is forged. That man possesses a fortress mind, a psychological resilience that cannot be manipulated, destabilized, or defeated by circumstances. If you want to become the hardest, sharpest, most strategic version of yourself, your mind must become your strongest stronghold, not your weakest point of entry. A fortress mind does not mean a closed mind. It does not mean shutting out the world or refusing vulnerability. It means you have constructed an internal foundation so stable, so reinforced, so self-directed, that external chaos cannot penetrate it. You feel pressure, but you do not fold. You experience setbacks, but you do not shatter. You face criticism, but you do not lose identity. You encounter uncertainty, but you do not collapse into fear. Your mind becomes structured, fortified, disciplined. The first pillar of the fortress mind is mental reframing. You must learn to reinterpret challenges. Most people treat difficulties as personal attacks. They see them as signs that something is wrong with them or their path. But a strategic man sees challenges as neutral data, as signals, as opportunities to evolve. When something goes wrong, he does not spiral into helplessness. He asks, "What is this moment trying to teach me?" That question alone separates the mentally fragile from the mentally fortified. Fragile minds see problems. Fortified minds see patterns. Mental reframing gives you power over situations that once overwhelmed you. Instead of absorbing negativity raw, you process it with strategy. Instead of labeling setbacks as failures, you treat them as recalibrations. Instead of collapsing under disappointment, you convert it into momentum. This is the psychology of resilience, not the absence of struggle, but the mastery of interpretation. The second pillar of the fortress mind is controlled adversity. You cannot grow resilient in comfort. You must place yourself in situations that demand effort, discipline, and endurance. This is not punishment, it's preparation. Cold showers, intense workouts, focused solitude, disciplined routines. All of these are controlled adversities. They sharpen your tolerance for discomfort so that when life throws real adversity at you, you meet it with steadiness instead of shock. Controlled adversity does something else, something psychological. It rewires your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who avoids difficulty and start seeing yourself as someone who confronts it. That identity shift is the foundation of inner strength. You no longer fear hardship because you've trained your mind to endure it. And endurance is a form of quiet superiority, not over others, but over your former self. The third pillar of the fortress mind is internal dialogue control. You must learn to monitor the conversations you have with yourself. Your internal dialogue is either reinforcing your mission or sabotaging it. It is either sharpening your edge or dulling it. A powerful man does not allow his mind to speak to him in tones that weaken him. He challenges his doubts, he questions his fears, he reclaims command over the voice that tries to replay old insecurities. Your inner voice must become your strategist, not your critic. It must push you forward, not pull you backward. This does not mean lying to yourself or forcing false positivity. It means speaking to yourself with realism, discipline, and courage. Your inner world shapes your outer world. Fortify it. The fourth pillar of the fortress mind is focus management. Your attention is the most valuable currency you possess. Everything and everyone competes for it. Social media, distractions, negativity, drama, endless noise. If you do not learn to guard your focus, you will lose your ambition one notification at a time. Fortified minds create boundaries for their focus. They decide what enters their mental space and what does not. They filter ruthlessly. They prioritize intentionally. Focus is a weapon. It allows you to accelerate your growth while others stand still. It creates momentum where others create excuses. When you control your focus, you control your direction. When you control your direction, you control your destiny. The fifth pillar of the fortress mind is detached self-evaluation. You must learn to analyze yourself without ego, without shame, and without denial. Most people avoid their weaknesses because acknowledging them feels uncomfortable. But what you refuse to confront will eventually confront you. Strategic men face their weaknesses with cold clarity. They look at themselves as a commander examines a battlefield, honestly, intelligently, without emotional distortion. This kind of self-evaluation allows you to see where you lack structure, where you lose discipline, where you react impulsively, and where you need refinement. It is not criticism, it is self-leadership. You hold yourself to a standard because no one else will. You evolve not because someone demanded it, but because you demanded it of yourself. The sixth pillar of the fortress mind is emotional endurance. You will face rejection, failure, disappointment, misjudgment, and loss. These are universal experiences. No one escapes them. But the difference between a fragile mind and a fortified one is how they metabolize these experiences. Fragile minds attach their identity to temporary moments. Fortified minds allow emotions to pass through without letting them reshape their self-worth. Endurance does not mean suppressing your feelings. It means surviving them without surrendering your mission. You feel the emotion, you acknowledge it, and you continue forward. That continuation is what builds mental resilience over time. The seventh pillar is long-term identity stability. When your identity shifts based on mood, approval, or circumstances, you become inconsistent. But when your identity is anchored in values, discipline, integrity, resilience, purpose, you remain stable even when everything around you is unstable. Identity is your compass. When you know who you are, the world cannot confuse you. All of this, reframing, adversity, self-dialogue, focus, evaluation, endurance, identity, forms the fortress mind. A mind that does not react impulsively. A mind that does not collapse under pressure. A mind that does not lose itself when others lose theirs. This is the internal armor you build. This is the psychological fortress that protects your power. If you're ready to sharpen this part of yourself, if you feel your inner architecture strengthening, declare it in the comments. My mind is my fortress. Let the world see your stance. Number 9. The final refinement. Becoming the untouchable version of you. Now you stand at the edge of the man you used to be, and the man you are becoming. Everything you've heard, every principle, every discipline, every strategy has been sharpening you piece by piece, not into perfection, but into precision, not into arrogance, but into awareness. This is what separates the ordinary from the untouchable, the willingness to evolve with intention. Understand this truth before you move forward. The world does not give power freely. It grants it to those who have built themselves into something unbreakable from the inside out. You are not here to chase validation. You are here to cultivate strength that cannot be shaken, a presence that cannot be ignored, a mind that cannot be manipulated. That is the final refinement, internal sovereignty. The path ahead will not get easier, but you will get sharper, colder, more focused, more capable. And every step you take with discipline becomes another layer of armor around your purpose. People may doubt you, they may question you, they may misunderstand you. Let them. Your growth is not meant to be comfortable for them. It is meant to be transformational for you. If you're ready to step into this next evolution, leave your final mark in the comments. Write, I rise beyond all limits. Let it be your closing declaration. And if this journey resonated with you, if it lit a fire inside you, make sure you like this video, subscribe to Psygrythm, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next step of your transformation. Your ascent has only begun.